recording here. Again, happy April 21st, Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Hope you're all doing well. So as I mentioned, between now until fall, I'm going to do these every other week just because of my personal schedule. I like to do less. But in saying that, that's fine, right? Because we have rules, we have guidelines, and we just got to follow them to hopefully make some money in the markets. And so today, Rick, good to see you. Today's really a good day to have this. So let's first talk about a couple of things. So Netflix, okay, you can all see Netflix on the chart here. Let me move this over for just a second. Okay. So for Netflix, right, we had earnings, and even though you can see they beat their earnings, they're not excited about their forecast coming up, right? So because of that, the stock dropped. So that's one of the reasons you have to understand if you're in a option play on Netflix, for example, going into earnings, there's risk, right? And the implied volatility, 32% is not bad, which just means it's not bad right now. But what it's really telling you is this is what can happen, right? It can go down to $503 in a heartbeat with earnings, right? So with that, just some takeaways. Some of the biggest takeaways is you have to be aware of earnings, right? And with Thinkorswim is always nice because it's got the red and the blue here telling you earnings is coming up. So if, for example, you took a re-entry right here where the gear started heading up and you had a green dot, okay, you have to either be okay with holding it through the risk, taking partial profits up here beforehand, or exiting the trade. I personally don't usually get into trades a week before earnings, okay, with my normal seasonal strategies anyway. I am working on a strategy for you all that I'll share in the coming months on earnings, because it's not about win rate, right? It's about risk reward. And Netflix is actually a good example. When you look at the seasonal indicator, okay, the green, okay, let me just blow this up for just a second. Let me move this out of the way. So you can see here, we typically had higher, okay? There's a little dip, and then we had higher now until July. So if you stayed in our earnings, your thought was, well, using seasonality, typically Netflix overperforms their news, but it didn't happen this time, right? But now, because I'm not in Netflix right now, so now what excites me is, okay, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with Netflix. People are still going to watch and stream. They were just saying that something like they're only forecasting 1 million new users the next quarter or something, okay? And so the stock came down. We'll see if it breaks 500. If it breaks below 500, watch out. I think it could definitely make a larger move down, but I don't think it's going to happen, okay? But what I'm looking for is personally a long entry now. Okay, so you see Mr. Laguerre here, right? So whenever that happens in the near future, it comes back in and comes back out, and we get green Hakanachis again, that's going to be my entry opportunity, okay? Knowing we have this beautiful seasonal. So that's what I'm looking for here in the near future on Netflix. Now, if it continues down, I'm not going to get underneath that, right? That's what we have our indicators for, the Hakanachi, the Laguerre. But at this point, I think it might give you a good entry opportunity here in the near future, okay? Okay, so again, some big picture here. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, again, it amuses me at times because if I'll look at things for fun, like Market Watch and, just some of the different websites as I'm sitting at the computer. And there's always excuses, right? I mean, folks, the reason this came down is pretty simple. Let me blow that out. Look at this monster uptrend. Okay, every time it's gone back to this 50 period. Okay, again, let me just show you. Okay, the white right here is the 50 period. Okay, it's been respecting that like anything. So if it breaks through, if Hackenacci stays red and it continues through, once it closes below this, I may look for a short plan Bitcoin. Okay, but if it respects this, in an uptrend, you always have moves down. Okay, this can be another great entry. Okay, and again, I'm not trading Bitcoin futures. I'm not crazy. Absolutely, John. But you can trade Riot or Mara. You know, Mara is actually my favorite. I like Riot too. Okay, so I've got a couple trades on this, right? I made money back here and exited on a June expiration on Mara. I also have a 2-year leap out there, which is one I'm holding for 2 years, okay? Because the risk is so low compared to the potential rewards. But what I'm going to do when this thing turns around, whenever it does, okay, I don't know when that is. You know, we're letting our indicators tell us. Whenever this turns around, this will be my new entry point, okay? And so that's how I'm trading the Bitcoin type opportunities, okay? All right, so now let's bring up the S&P. So what's everybody's thoughts on S&P here? All right, so with the S&P, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, more than likely with the seasonal and the way retailers were shorting the heck out of the market, we'll hit new highs, right? And we continued to. Okay, so again, this is amusing to me when some of the folks out there are saying things like, "Here comes a crash." We're not even at the 15 period moving average, folks. Okay, right here. So, you know, we had a new high again on what, Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whenever that was last week. And now we're just having the normal, or actually Monday, right? We're just having the normal retracement. So, you know, we have a Laguerre trigger short, and, you know, some may be tempted to take that, but I don't like to take those because it's such an aggressive uptrend. Okay, to me, the real opportunity is if it does make a lower move, think of the new entry, right? Like back here on March 9th, look at that entry that we had, right? So, you know, risk reward, don't play the short. If it comes back further, great, it'll give us a better re-entry. Okay, although today it looks like it doesn't want to. It doesn't mean we won't head down the rest of this week, okay? Because the Laguerre is a powerful trigger and it's triggering short. So even though, you know, we're up today, right? Let me blow this up for you all. You know, even though we are up today, we still have a red Hackenacci candle, okay? At some point, we're going to come down and retest this 50 period, right? And that's been my only nervousness at all about doing too much long plays on the ES, is the fact that at some point we got to have that normal retracement. Maybe it's only going to be the 15 period, but at some point we're going to come retest this. This is widening, which is a bullish channel, okay? So we'll wait and see. But, you know, at this point, I'm just looking for long still. We also talked about the NASDAQ, right? And I said back a few weeks ago that what I loved about the NASDAQ is we had more room to run to highs, right? And so, of course, last week, or when was this? So this is Thursday, Wednesday, or wait, today's Wednesday, Tuesday, so Friday, right? We hit new highs. And now we're just looking to have a normal retracement here, okay? I mean, even today with Amazon down multiple points, right? The NQ still up. That's bullish, folks, okay? That's bullish. So that's really where we're at. You know, I want to see a retracement a little bit more, and then we'll get into some more bull moves. Laguerre triggered short, so it will not surprise me if we do have a bigger move now, okay? At least from a wicking standpoint, maybe this 13.6. See how back here we got this move down at wicked? Because again, we're in a really bullish channel, so I don't necessarily think we're going to have all the way down to that 50 period. but you don't have to think about it. When it's green, when Hakanachi turns green, that's your entry, right? Or you can go to a smaller time frame. All right, crude oil. Yeah, I agree, Bill. You know, I mean, it's exactly the key word there is pullback. This isn't a market crash. This is a pullback, okay? Dr. G, I am buying option plays for Bitcoin using either Mara or Riot. That's what I like to do, okay? And I've got some longer term plays in that as well, okay? All right, so crude. You can see here we finally got the actual trigger, right? Because back here, the Laguerre came out right here, but it was still red Hakanachi. Finally, we got the breakout, okay? And then you had a decent trade here, okay? Now, today, we're getting back to that red Hakanachi. So if you're an oil trader, okay, the seasonal is more sideways now, okay? So just some ideas. If you like to trade oil, you know, here's what I would do. I do this all the time. Look at the 4-hour chart and take Laguerre triggers in either direction with a sideways moving seasonal, okay? So, you know, if you took this, you know, you would have got in at the open of this. So right here, it turned red. Okay, you get into the next bar. You get in at 62.44. You're down right now to 61.09 or so, okay? It's a nice little move here on the 4-hour. But if you're not in, now we're just looking for that next long play, right? Right here. So, you know, you can trade the options, or you can go to, you know, ETF, however you want to trade that. But, you know, that's fun. I mean, if you like to trade oil, you know, the 4-hour chart's great and the risk is lower, okay? The risk is lower there, okay? I'll definitely get to that shift, so remind me if I forget. All right, so the dollar index. So the dollar index has basically made the nice move up, and now it's made another move down, right? And so we typically, from a seasonal, we really bottom right around now. You can see here from the white line here. Okay, so now I'm expecting a move back up until mid-May, but it's more sideways, more choppy, right? Back and forth, back and forth. So if you're trading the dollar index, what I'd be waiting for now, I would take a long signal when we get it. When you have green Hakanachi, Laguerre triggering, the ADX is nice and trendy here. You know, this would be a good opportunity to make some money, okay? If you're in this trade short, absolutely stay in until we get a reason to exit, right? I mean, look where we're at. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like roughly 13 red candles, right? So you might be like, you know, that's all we're going to get now. I got to get out. No, here's why. Has anybody looked at Home Depot? Lumber, right? If you took the Laguerre trigger back here on March 9th, maybe you would have said, hey, you know what? Oh man, I'm right here. I'm going to exit. I made plenty of money. And you would have gave up all these profits. Hakanachi has kept you into this trade, and the Laguerre, right? Because you don't know what the actual top's going to be until it happens, right? So it might be this week, it might be next week, it might be next month. But this is an easy, look at these solid green Hakanachi candles, folks. If you get a few of these a year, you're going to be a very, very happy trader. You just don't know it going into it, right? I mean, yeah, it has a great seasonal. I mean, that's obvious. But this is where Hakanachi, I think, is a game changer. Between that and the Laguerre, you know, the trigger of the Laguerre with the green Hakanachi, you're going to get a few of these a year. And when it happens, stay in it and maximize it, okay? You can beat the market because we all know it'll take care of us at times, right? So don't be happy with just taking profits here or here or here. Wait for the rules to tell you when to exit. You're going to make roughly 80% of the entire move on every trade, if not more, okay? So what's better, 80% of, you know, $100 move or 80% of 50, right? 80% of 100, okay? All right, VIX. So you can see Volatility today has gone up. Okay, let me just kind of bring this in a little bit. And you can see from left to right now, okay, we're kind of sideways on the VIX. Okay, now if this continues heading higher, folks, it's one of my favorite trades, right? Once it starts falling, right, it only rises for so many days and then it'll come down. Okay, we don't know when that's going to be, and we don't need to, again, we don't need to predict it, right? It'll tell us. So right here we have the move up, a few wicking days, then red candle, short play, wick, short play. Okay, so I want to see the VIX in many aspects come back up and test this 26 to 30 level or higher, and then you have your short play on the VIX. Okay, you get a few of these a year, and again, they're super, super strong trades. Okay, because the VIX always falls. It always falls. Right, it goes up fast and then it falls. It's like I say to everybody, it's like my poor grandmother when she was alive. My brother and I, we used to always hide behind corners throughout the day and scare the hell out of her, right? So boo, and then she would startle, right? And we would do it all day long. I feel really bad. I feel really bad for my poor grandma back then. But anyway, the fear goes up fast, right? The adrenaline, then it comes right back to normal. That's the VIX, folks, okay? Because no matter what news is out there, even when we had the initial COVID, okay? In fact, let me show you. This is important. So let me go to the weekly. So right here at 80 on the VIX, right? This was during the initial COVID. You didn't know when to, you might not have known when to short this. Okay, let me blow this up for you. But Hackenacci was saying, okay, we're here, we're not at a high, even though we're much higher than we usually are, we're not at a high. Hackenacci told you right here on the week of March 30th, all right, now we're probably at that high there, so now we're going to go lower. So if you would have did a short play on the VIX, that's a lot of money right there, okay? Now there's actually more advanced strategies that I'll teach you in the future on catching this. And I learned it from a client of mine where he continues to buy into this. Again, he proportions appropriately to his size of his account, okay? Because he knows eventually it's going to come down. When it comes down, it comes down, right? Fear only lasts for so long. So again, I'm trying not to get off too much on a tangent, but what I wanted to remind everybody, keep an eye on that VIX every week, every day, because when it does spike up, you get some really good opportunities to take it down, okay? To take it down. So I love the fact this bullish Hackenacci candle on the VIX, and we're getting, for example, a short trigger on the ES. I will not be surprised, even today, though today's up 26 points, if we roll over and start coming down to some point down here between the 50 and the 15. Okay, I won't be surprised at all. I also won't be surprised if it just jumps right back up, because as you know, we're in this massive uptrend, but I think we're going to see a little bit more downside now. Okay, it's not a crash, it's normal movement within the market. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so let me know if you have questions on that. So keep an eye on the VIX. Bonds. And I haven't talked, I mean, I talk about them every couple of weeks, but I haven't been trading bonds. Okay. And, you know, again, bonds is just kind of going back down here. We're kind of sideways on the seasonal until my favorite trade of the June, the summer trade in bonds, right? Long. So since seasonal is kind of out of the picture right now as a sideways, it's always good to know, right? Then what I'm really looking for is the trend is our friend. So, you know, we're consolidating now right roughly at this 50 period. So if it respects this, and then that Laguerre trigger short with the Hackenacci, I think we'll retest those lows, right? We had our divergence here, you know, which picked a really good bottom here, but the bottom line is, you know, what I'm looking for now is just another move down, but I'm not going to force anything, okay? So if we get that, you know, what are some ways to trade that? You know, you can look at TLT, doing a short option play on TLT if you wanted to, is always a good way. But there's a lot of ways to trade bonds. I know a lot of you know that. Yeah, Bill, I think it's coming, but like you said, we never know how far it's going to fall, right? And that's the key, right? Let me just bring that up again because Bill has a great point on expecting the ES or the SPX to come down to the white line here. It will at some time, right? The cool thing is when it starts coming down like it is right now, we know the bottom is going to be predicted pretty well using the Laguerre and the Hackenacci, right? So we don't have to try to catch a falling knife, we call it, right? Because look how well it's predicted that. Like back here, we had the move down in October of last year, then green Hackenacci, reversal, right? Right here, wick at the 50, reversal. I mean, these are phenomenal entry points, right? Here was another one. So if it happens, you better believe I'll be super excited, right? Great point, Bill. Okay, let me just look at, so I think I've hit most of the major stuff I want. Gold, let me talk about gold. So gold's breaking out now, okay? Again, I haven't been trading much gold because it's kind of a flat seasonal now. It hasn't been respecting the seasonal this year. And so again, let me give you my 2 cents on seasonality. Seasonality is extremely important to know, and this is why. I get this all the time. Well, what if it's not following its pattern, Dr. Keith? Then it's not working. No, it is, because it's telling you that that underline isn't acting normal. So stay the hell away from it. Okay, that's what it's telling you. Okay, and again, I always go back to my favorite, recent example with Domino's Pizza, right? DPZ. Okay. And now it's harder to see because it's further back, but we all know it's one of my favorite trades each year. And this year in January, we have a move up typically. See, the white line was forecasting a nice move up. And what happened? It actually went down. At the time, it wasn't following its normal seasonality pattern. Okay. So because of that, when I took this trade, I went in half size, but if you're really risk adverse or you have a smaller account, if a stock, futures, or Forex is not following its normal pattern, trade something else. That's why seasonality, I know I get fired up on this, but this is important. Seasonality is important because if it's not following its pattern, it tells you, it's like news. You don't have to read the news, the charts tell you. But if it is following its pattern, then you have a high probability it's going to make you money. Okay, Domino's ended up being a nice opportunity for you, but it took longer than expected this year. That's all. Okay, so very important on seasonalities. Understand how you read it. Okay, absolutely. All right, so let me see, what else do I got? So let me talk about Broadcom. So keep Broadcom on your charts. It's one of my favorite stocks to trade. It's got beautiful seasonality. So with these pullbacks, folks, keep an eye on Broadcom, which is ABGO, because we'll end up hitting new highs here, this summer, by this summer. And the harder it falls, right? Again, look at this entry. Let me blow this up. So during this fall, there's no reason to enter, right? Like right here, you're like, okay, you wait for the entry. There it is. Okay. So don't catch a falling knife. Don't be impatient. Wait for the entry. When you got green Hackenacci, Laguerre, that's going to give you a much better entry. Much better entry. Okay. All right, so let me talk about some of the ones I like trading. Okay, so NEO, keep an eye on NEO. It has a great seasonal move right now. It's only got 5 years of data there. Okay, now this is an ugly chart. Don't get me wrong. It's consolidating. It's the red ADX, but once it breaks out, probably with earnings here, keep NEO on your list. Is all I'm saying. Okay, it's a good opportunity. NVIDIA, one of my trades of the year that I love every year. But again, when you get these retracements, had a nice divergence pick here, it's come down. At some point, we're going to get another new entry to the long side on NVIDIA. Okay. Okay. Okay, so a couple things here. Oh, and Shopify, folks. Look at the seasonal. Again, it doesn't have 10 years of data, okay, but it has 5. So same thing with Shopify, so we got earnings coming up, and then look what happens typically until mid-August. So have that on your watch list, follow your triggers long on Shopify, okay? Okay, John, I agree with that 100%. So let's see. So Bill says, so Bill, we have for the Laguerre triggers is right here. We have a watch list script, okay? So whatever my watch list is, so let me bring up public R-W weeklies, okay? And then once it's done loading, let me just show you. The light green longs is when it's gone above. Let me click on one to show you. It's when it's not quite gone above the green, but it's trending up. The dark greens here, it pierced it, right? So that way I can go look at all my triggers and thinkorswim within seconds each morning, okay? And then decide if it matches the seasonal to the right, if it's a good trade for me. Okay, I make it very simple for myself. Okay, so here's an example where it triggered, okay, on IBM, but if you look at IBM, it's actually more to the downside or flat, right? They had some recent news out that came out and they had earnings, but that's how I look at things. So absolutely, I use the Laguerre kind of as, the trigger gauge to find these opportunities, okay? So if, maybe we need to talk offline then, make sure you're set up properly, okay? Okay, so I had a couple requests, I believe. What was that? REGN, absolutely, yes. Yes, the data mining too, right? REGN. So, on REGN, remember that we have a nice seasonal movement coming, lots of good green. That's what we like to see. Okay. So at this point, again, if you didn't take this trigger long right here on REGN, you just want that pullback and look to go long. Remember, the issue right now and the irritation is what? We have a lot of earnings coming up, right? So, I navigate through earnings. I either get out before, I don't take trades within a few days of earnings. That's why, like on the alerts right now, not a lot of new trades been going on just because of earnings. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to have an earnings strategy soon that will have, you'll get to see your risk and reward and everything. But for now, you have until May 6th on this, so you can take a trigger, just you may want to get out before that. I just don't go in about a week before earnings typically, okay, with the seasonal strategy, okay? Absolutely. Well, send me an email just as a reminder, then, and we'll get something set up. Absolutely. So I want to make sure you got what you need there, because yeah, you should be able to find the triggers right away. If you're looking for shorts, there's the shorts and so forth. Okay. Okay. I'm just checking my notes here. So, some of the things I'm looking at, folks, if I go back and, let me bring up, let me load SIG on here. Oh, I'm sorry, I already had it. I didn't see it there initially. Remove that. So if I sort by SIG, we got green and the reds. So what I like to look is if you have a green 1.0 and it matches the Laguerre trigger, like APT, okay, to the upside here, this is an opportunity. Now, again, even though the seasonal back here was to the downside, I don't like this chart. I don't like when prices are just going sideways like that. So I'm not going to take this long, okay? But more than likely, this is probably close to the bottom when we're going higher, okay? More than likely because it's a green SIG. Here's one AG, right? We got a light green, which means it's just about piercing, and now it is piercing today. And look at the seasonal on that, okay? So these are First Majestic silver that we're looking at. Again, I don't like that the ADX is red. I think we could still stay in this consolidation, right? But again, my point is you can look at a seasonal move and a trigger within seconds to find if it's a good fit for you, okay? That's what I like to do. I only like to look at the cream of the crop opportunities, in my opinion, Okay. And yes, if there's anything else you guys want me to look at, symbol wise, type them in, and I'll be more than happy to look at and give you my analysis on it. Okay. Caterpillar, sure. So it's been a nice uptrend. It's seasonal coming up to the upside here, right? So again, we have earnings, but it's on the April 29th, so you got to be careful with the earnings. But absolutely, you know, and this is common where we're getting some consolidation close to earnings. But after earnings is over, I'm looking for longs, you know, meeting that criteria. And if it gaps up or something, remember, you can always go back to a smaller time frame to enter. You can always go to like a 4-hour chart, right? So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to do that. All right, we looked at NVIDIA, QCOM. Sure, let's take a look at QCOM. So QCOM kind of dips here until roughly June. Okay, so with this downtrend, I would actually be looking more for the short side trades. You know, we had that combo short trigger right here. But if we start getting higher lows, once we get into June, I'd be looking for long plays on QCOM. Micron. Again, beautiful uptrend, good seasonal play here. So once you get that trigger, right? Green Hackenacci, Laguerre trending up, there's your new entry, right? If you did it back here, bam, back here, bam. Okay, you can keep playing that uptrend. Now, in saying that, you know, this has been pretty volatile, right? So you got to look at something and understand it. What, in fact, what is the okay? Implied volatility is okay, but you know, it's a pretty wicky stock, right? Micron. So you know, as a shorter term play, might be harder. More looking for a longer term play on Micron. Okay. AMD, we're kind of like we talked about before, that, you know, love the seasonal. Okay, we're getting into some earnings, so we're getting in some consolidation. So at this point, you know, I'm looking to enter after earnings when I get a long trigger. Okay, pure and simple. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. AMD is a solid stock, a lot of great products, and I think it'll go much higher. Yeah. Boeing. And again, if you have futures or forex you want to look at too, folks, I don't just trade stocks. All right, so Boeing. Again, we have earnings coming up. You know, the seasonal is flat to up. Okay, so I'd be biased to the upside on this. You know, airlines have been pretty volatile right now. Just, you know, crazy news comes out all the time between COVID and how it's going to affect airlines. But, you know, if we get a Laguerre trigger after earnings, yeah, I would definitely be more biased to the upside with that trend. Okay. AEL doesn't have a lot of seasonal data yet. It's more sideways. So I don't have an advantage from a seasonal data, but it is an uptrend. So if I was forced to trade it, right, American Air, then what I'm really looking for is a move up after earnings, wait for green Hackenacci, green, you know, Laguerre pointing up. That's what I'm looking for. Well, John, for lumber, I mean, you can look at Home Depot lows. I actually look at the futures. Okay. I was in this trade in the futures until today. I finally got stopped out. Okay. So this is LBS lumber ET or futures. Okay. If you don't, and it's very lightly traded. I actually had to trade this on TradeStation, but Home Depot and Lowe's is just as good. Okay. Just as good. Yeah, you know, gold's been, like I said, a little bizarre, a little unpredictable. GDX is definitely, you know, starting, it's broken out of this downward move, right? We now got the moving averages on top. And you can see the seasonal play typically tops right around August, right? So, there's this major trend line here. Gold can go either way on me. That's why I'm just not trading much of it right now. But again, if you went in from a Laguerre trigger and a green dot, I would stay in it until it tells you otherwise. Or if you're looking to short this, right, you know the rules. Laguerre trigger with a with a red Hockenacci, and then you can look to short this. But I don't like gold from a probability standpoint right now. I think it's too unpredictable, personally. Okay. So folks, one of the things that I've got now, and I'm testing it out, and it'll be available soon, is divergence, right? We all know about the divergence indicator. I finally got my scan up and running. So let me show you. Okay, this is a customized divergence scan. I hit scan. I did it off the daily. You can do any time frame you want. And this is what came up today. So if I show you dominoes, what you should see is the divergence from yesterday. Okay, you see that? So again, it'll be available soon. Just want to make sure there's no kinks in it. But what's cool about that is if you like divergence, you'll be able to scan again in any product you want if there was any divergence. Okay. Super excited about it. Let's see, yeah, so the way I use it, Raj, is if you have a new high in price, like we did right here, over X amount of time period, if they're not all-time highs, okay? If you have a new high, but not a new high in the traditional RSI, which has been the most effective for me back testing, then you get potential divergence, okay? So back here yesterday, when this closed, okay, we had a new high for the day, recent high, and the RSI wasn't at a new high, so you have your divergence. And again, you can do this on any time frame. I can go to scan here. I can change this to 4 hours. I got these on the weeklies right now. I can hit scan. Takes a minute because it's going through, 700-800 stocks. And Thinkorswim is a granny, isn't it, lately? So right now there's 4 on the, so Broadcom's one. Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to change this now to the 4-hour chart. Now you got the bullish divergence long. Okay, so if you're looking to go in Broadcom, for example, you got the nice seasonal, right? And now you got 4-hour divergence here, and the Laguerre looks like it wants to trigger potentially here, right? This could be an opportunity for it. Okay, that's what divergence can do for it. Okay. The other cool thing, I'm also able to get a script now. So let me blow this up for you. This is divergence right here as well as a script. So I can, whatever stocks you have, you can sort. Okay. The N is no's, no divergence. Then the Y's would be yes. Okay. So that's what we're looking for, is yes and no's. And I'm trying to get it sorted better. That's what I'm waiting before I publish this. But here's a Y right here, AMGN. See the divergence? AMRN, see the divergence? And so that way, if you have your watch list, if there's a Y, it means there's also divergence. So if you're looking for a divergence trade, it'll be there for you. Okay. So really cool stuff. Oh, I will, Raj. I absolutely have a separate. I have it next Tuesday on divergence. Okay. But that's all coming, folks. That way you can have the divergence in your platform and you're aware of it at all times. Okay. All right. Are there any other things you want me to talk about or look at today? Let me know. So yes, you should have gotten an invite today on my divergence webinar next Tuesday. Definitely register at least, because then you'll get the recording if you can't attend. Okay. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. I can put it in there for you. 1 second. I'll have to look for it. I don't see it on my my page here, but it was sent out to everybody that's on my list. So you should have got to check your spam. But yeah, regardless, we'll figure it out. Email me as well if you don't get it. Okay, so Bill, email me that as well, because you should be on that list. And check spam. Sometimes they go to spam, but you should be getting that stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so the other thing, folks, make sure you're keeping an eye on the data mining. Those of you that have the data mining, there's some phenomenal moves coming. Keep an eye on that. But, you know, as a general kind of conclusion here, let me bring up the S&P. You must continue to realize this, because I know a lot of you, when you're watching the news, you're freaking out. Look at the trend, okay? So a couple of down days or a down day or two is just normal retracements. You've got to keep that in mind, okay? I still think we're heading lower here. Hakanakji's saying we still are, Laguerre, okay? I think we're going to test something in between these two moving averages. So I'm being cautious. I'm not doing many new long plays right now. But once we get the new trigger long, we'll hit new highs again. We're going to continue to hit new highs until we don't. That's what it comes down to, okay? All right, folks. Well, again, thanks for attending. I look forward to talking to you all in a couple of weeks. Again, my best guesstimation is will we be higher in the ES and the Dow and the NASDAQ 2 weeks from now? I think we'll be right about where we're at. I think we're going to get that retracement and then it's going to come and catch it. But I don't think we're going to head much higher until after that happens. Personally, I think we're going to get some profit taking now. You can see on the ES, we kind of go sideways now a little bit until mid-May. I think that's what's going to kind of happen. But the good news is that means that your seasonal stocks and so forth, you know, we're acting very normal. So those should continue with triggers going higher. And that's really what we want. Okay. So, oh, got one more request here on Apple. So let me end it by looking at Apple. You know, so again, Apple had a nice run up. Right now we're getting the sell trigger. So as a shorter term trade, it's going to take profits now. As a longer term trade, I would hold. Then we have earnings coming up, which is always the risk on 428, right? So if I'm not in this trade, then I'm waiting after earnings and I'm looking to only go long on Apple, okay? Whenever that is after earnings, whenever we get the next trigger long, that's what I'm looking for. All right, folks, we'll have a great week. And reach out if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks. Take care now.